coming up next on The Arts Connection. A plan to bring back a bit of Orlando's glorious past. Plus, it's all in the stroke, an ancient Chinese art form you can feel.
And it comes from within.
And the sparkling canvas of Tiffany glass right here in Orlando's backyard.
Well, wouldn't you all love to have it above your door?
We're going to take you inside this national treasure.
That and more just ahead on The Arts Connection. Welcome to The Arts Connection. I'm Cecily Wilson here at the Manello Museum, home of the permanent collection of Earl Cunningham's folk art paintings. Now we're going to go inside a little later on in the program and learn more about the museum. But first, let's take a journey into Orlando's musical past. Before International Drive, Pleasure Island, or Universal City Walk, there was Church Street. It was the hotspot back in the 80s for Orlando's nightclub scene, hosting concerts and parties attended by some of the biggest names in country music. Well, those doors closed back in 2001, but a familiar face wants to bring back the glory years of Church Street Station. And as Jessica Sanchez tells us, it begins with renovating the old Cheyenne Saloon and Opera House.
Here we go.
This is the Cheyenne Saloon and Opera House. This was built from 1980 to 1982.
The walls could talk. You'd hear some great stories here. Some you'd want to tell your mother and others you wouldn't.
Some of the most fun I've ever had and wonderful experiences on this stage, you know.
It was fantastic up there. We had almost 3 million people a year coming through Church Street Station.
It's so difficult to describe the feeling. It was just exciting. You had to be here to see it.
And there's nothing else like it, even still.
It is the first time in 6 years that a sweet country western melody has echoed through the Cheyenne Saloon and Opera House.
I swear I missed this place for a long time. I really did.
From the outside, it looks like any other abandoned and dilapidated building in Church Street Station. There is only a hint of the grandeur that lies behind the dark and dirty windows.
It's something to see, you know, being empty like this. Kind of, you can still hear the crowd. It's kind of the ghost of the crowd here. Never goes away.
There was a standing line to get in from about 7 o'clock until 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was for probably the first 2 weeks that we were open. Here we had about 900 employees, 30 managers, we had about 65 entertainers, Dixieland, bluegrass, country.
It was exactly what developer Bob Snow envisioned in 1967 when he sold his vintage Porsche for $1,500, gathered support from others, and set out to create an urban hotspot that was proud to be 75 years behind the times.
An opera house that was converted into a saloon.
Define those terms. A saloon, you think of guys standing 4 deep at the bar. Opera house, you think of Miss Kitty walking down the stairs with her girls and the band, the piano player playing the rinkety piano. Well, it was that, but it was upscale.
Like a great Western Grand Ole Opry. And we had all the very top entertainers who've ever played country music and played here.
Every time you come around.
And it would take us sometimes 10 minutes just to get to the backstage room because it was just a sea of people partying and having a great time. And And then you'd take the stage and you'd see these faces like looking at you.
All the way to the third floor, and the awesome energy that was in the room when this place was full, which was most every night. It was just an entertainer's dream come true.
It's an event every time you come in, and then you hear this like voice of God coming from the rafters going, ladies and gentlemen.
Gentlemen, the First Lady of Country Music, Miss Tammy Wynette.
Man, getting goosebumps thinking about it,
Oh, welcome to my world. Won't you come on in?
And we had a huge following. It was the #1 Nielsen rated show at the Nashville Network.
Welcome to the City Beautiful, Orlando, Florida, home of Church Street Station.
But the glitz and glamour of the 80s would have a hard time keeping up in the 90s. Church Street was no longer the only hot spot in the Orlando night scene.
Yes, there was a lot of competition. When I left here, there was Pleasure Island, and there were, International Drive and a few things like that.
It was difficult for everyone. Management was trying to keep their head above water.
The writing was on the wall when I was leaving, because it was just not quite the fun it was.
But then one night we walked off the stage at 1:30 and someone said, "You're not coming back." And I don't want to say it was a shock because we knew it was coming, but it still wasn't pleasant.
We had kind of a final, farewell to the place and the entire complex. We more or less were saying goodbye.
The Cheyenne Saloon and Opera House closed its doors in 2001 and has remained virtually untouched, just a memory of what it used to be. And you can see that over the years, dust has accumulated on the tables and chairs, and the Western memorabilia that used to decorate the walls, they're gone, but not forgotten.
It was about a 7-foot wide longhorn steer horn. We had artifacts just about everywhere, and those were all taken out and sold at auction, and they're all gone. And what I'm trying to do is find the people that bought them at auction to see if they'd like to come back and put them on display for us.
We had probably the largest collection of Remington bronze statues on the back bars.
And then I had big collections of Western guns and Derringers and gamblers' pistols and old Colts.
It was almost a museum as well as a music hall.
The coins that were minted in the Philadelphia Mint at that year are medallions in the bottom of those chandeliers. You can still see them there. And all of this was done in golden oak. There's about 250,000 board feet of golden oak in here. And every bit of this was milled by our own people back in the mill shop.
Well, the theme of the whole thing was to try to create that old Western cowboy saloon, but only on a grander scale.
And that's what this was intended to do with the opera boxes and the balconies.
Over the years, the carpet and the walls have faded, but the memories have not. The Cheyenne Saloon remains today much the way it did in 1982, as if knowing it would one day be restored to the splendor of days past.
Just needs to come back. It's too great an asset for the city of Orlando and for Church Street Station. And I want to see Church Street Station come back to what it once was.
Brought a lot of new talent in, from Kenny Chesney to Garth Brooks, and they all went on to become great stars. That's what we're looking to do again.
All it's got to do is open the doors and say, "Here I am," and people are going to love it,
I just hope the people out there that experienced it before will grace us again and come see us again.
I think that I hope I get to play here again, but if I don't, then I'll be leaning on the bar, because I'll be here.
Well, But hold on before you two-step into O-Town. Developer Bob Snow says it's going to take a lot of work to restore the Cheyenne to its original glory. But he says the music hall should be ready to host its first country concert by the first of the year. Up next, we want to give you a real taste of Asian culture. Some art forms go way back, even thousands of years. And you know, that's the case with the delicate artwork of the Orlando Oriental Paintbrush Society. They're really passionate about this unique art form, and they found a way to share their love of the art with you.
It's not like any other art form.
It is very graceful because of the long lines and the flowing.
It's the best way to describe Chinese brush painting, an artistic tradition that dates back more than 5,000 years, and since then has remained relatively unchanged.
Basically started from calligraphy 3,000 years ago and more. Calligraphy, if you've ever seen it done, is very methodical, very disciplined.
It was that discipline that helped Sharon Bennett perfect her painting while studying under a master in China.
Had us paint bamboo for an entire year. I was not allowed to paint anything but bamboo, but it was the discipline and the conditioning of my mind to paint just bamboo and get the spirit of it.
She's now teaching other artists and members of Orlando's Oriental Paintbrush Society how to capture the elegance and grace of Chinese brush painting.
It's like the ink is dancing across the paper. It's once you put that brush to the paper, it's just chills go up your arm, and you can feel the dance and the chi flowing.
Well, I'm practicing my strokes. I mean, you could do this for years, and I think I would be a novice no matter how many years I were painting.
Each brush stroke is a defining move that produces a portion of the painting that is neither improved upon nor corrected.
This is awful. This is much better. What I was trying was the splatter type.
Just a simple stroke. One stroke can be beautiful and you can be finished, you know, if that's your expression of the time. You don't have to create some huge thing to make it beautiful.
With this particular art form, less is more.
Part of the beauty of Chinese brush painting is the voids or the spaces where you don't paint, and they become an integral part of whatever you're painting, and it's all in balance.
It begins with a thought, and that thought becomes a reality with the artist transporting a mind image to the canvas of rice paper.
My thought for today, I think, is peace and joy.
I'm thinking about the chrysanthemum, which is the flower of autumn.
You look at a subject, you go out, it's a continuation of nature, and you come inside after you've communed with this nature, and you paint what you feel, not what you saw, and it comes from within.
It's called Qi, the energy within us.
When you've thought about your idea in your head, you feel it in your heart, you take the brush and the ink, and it comes out your arm, out the brush, onto the paper. And it's like a continual dance of your feelings of a subject.
Chinese brush painting is also a symbolic expression of art. From nature,
That I love bamboo. And it represents strength, long life, and it's a powerful plant.
All the way to the ink.
The top part is the flat part, and that represents the land. And the indentation here is the sea.
Each individual brush gives the painting rhythm and flow.
And this one is made out of deer tail, which is, makes a very thin, beautiful line.
No masterpiece is complete without the artist's chop, which is hand-carved from wood or stone. On it is the artist's name, the painting's theme, or a traditional saying.
And then this chop came from China too. And this one says, when souls are connected, there is no need for words.
The artist becoming one with the brush without one word being spoken. From the high art of Chinese calligraphy evolved the beauty and harmony of Chinese brush painting. Indeed, an art form that exhibits peace and artistic freedom. We've stepped inside the Manello Museum and just take a look around. Such a colorful feast for the eyes. The museum opened in 1998 to house Earl Cunningham's permanent collection. Cunningham is considered one of the great 20th century American folk artists. He lived from 1893 to 1977 and settled in the St. Augustine area in 1949. Well, it was on a road trip there that Orlando resident Marilyn Manello discovered his colorful works. She and her husband Michael began collecting them and eventually accumulated 300 of his paintings. In 1998, the Manello Museum opened to house the Cunningham collection. And recently, many of the paintings like these were sent to the Smithsonian to be exhibited there. Quite an honor for the Manello Museum. Well, joining me right now is the director of the museum, Mr. Frank Holt, and gaining quite a reputation for itself, not only in the state, but across the nation. This is an honor, isn't it?
Very big honor for the museum.
Yeah, tell us more about the whole exhibit. We understand that this is a legacy of Mrs. Manello.
The Smithsonian selected 50 of Earl Cunningham's paintings to be exhibited in the show in Washington. They borrowed 5 from the museum's collection, and they borrowed 10 from the Manello's collection, and then we sent an additional 11 paintings from other local museums and private collectors.
Not only do you house the Earl Cunningham paintings, but you also have Michael Eastman, those beautiful paintings of those horses. Now, how long will the horse exhibit be here, and then how often do you change exhibits in the museum?
The horses will be on view until September the 9th, and we change out 3-4 times a year so that people always have something new to look at.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. Folks, you've got to get out here and check it out. The artwork is simply stunning. Well, coming up, we have a remarkable story of the Tiffany collection and the Orlando couple who rescued part of it from near ruin. But first, Becky Morgan with the Arts Connection radio program has a look at what's going on around Central Florida.
Spend a weekend at the movies with friends and fans at the Central Florida Film Festival. They're back again for a second year at the Osceola Center for the Arts in Kissimmee. Festival events begin on the 31st and end on September 2nd. Check times, buy tickets, and find out more at centralfloridafilmfestival.com. From paint to plastics, the Orlando Museum of Art brings one of the largest collections of Puerto Rican art to town. The Image of a Culture exhibit combines different media, themes, and styles. Classes, guided tours, and seminars are offered by the artists themselves. You can check it out through the month of October at the Orlando Museum of Art in Lock Haven Park. Call 407-896-4231 for more about hours and admission fees, or check their website at omart.org. Looking for some toe-tapping folk music fun? This Sunday at 2:30, you'll see award-winning songwriter Carla Ulbrich take the stage at Lou Gardens. They say she'll make you laugh till you cry, and then cry till you laugh again. Central Florida Folk is sponsoring the concert being held at Lou Gardens in Orlando. You can get into this funky event with a $12 donation at the door. Look for more info about the monthly Central Florida folk music concerts at cffolk.org. Cupid and Psyche opens this weekend. You can catch all the laughs through September 9th at Theater Downtown on Orange Avenue. There are 3 shows a week, Fridays and Saturdays at 8 and Sundays at 2 p.m. For ticket information, you can call 407-841-0083 or visit them online at theaterdowntown.net. See something good out there? Take your ideas to the web. Let us know on WMFE.org.
When you hear the name Tiffany, the first thing that probably comes to mind is that signature little blue box that we all love. Well, there's so much more. And as our Chris Kinney explains, it's been a part of Orlando's culture now for 65 years.
The Morse Museum in Winter Park is home to the world's most comprehensive collection of Louis Comfort Tiffany treasures. Treasures that extend far beyond just silver and jewelry and into functional pieces of art like windows, furniture, and lamps.
This is something that is so unique. To actually have one piece is just unheard of.
Louis Comfort Tiffany, the son of renowned jewelry owner Charles Louis Tiffany, opted at age 24 to rebel against his father's jewelry business and explore the world of glassmaking.
He developed an American glass. This is really his great innovation.
A glass that over a century later has become prized and universally admired for its unique art form and stunning beauty.
The people are always astounded simply by the sheer aesthetic power, the profound beauty of this work.
But it's more than just beautiful. It's distinctive.
Instead of looking for purity of glass, he's looking for all of the imperfections. And they're these huge, we call them jewels, they're just chunks of glass of all different color. And then there's an iridescence on it, so it reflects and refracts light all over the place.
Up until the early 1880s, glass was prized for its purity of color, it being transparent and perfect. Tiffany's glass was the opposite. It yielded a kaleidoscope of colors, shadows, tones, and textures in just one sheet of glass.
But you can see the beautiful little tiny pieces of glass about an inch square with several different greens and whites all in one place. It looks like confetti has been worked through the glass. And it's just another example of the kind of complexity of glass that you find in Tiffany windows and Tiffany lamps and everything Tiffany did.
Tiffany, best known as a glassmaker, was also a painter, potter, and an interior designer.
He's so related to glass and windows and lamps that people don't realize the variety of material that he worked in.
He started as a painter, and then he began experimenting in glass, and then he moved into the stained glass, and then he became really a decorative artist, an architect at Laurelton Hall.
A decorative artist who provided interior designs for clients ranging from Mark Twain to President Chester Arthur. But his most impressive interior is the Tiffany Chapel, a centerpiece that brought the already successful designer to even greater heights of popularity.
It was a chapel interior made by Tiffany for the World's Fair in Chicago in 1893.
And so this was actually an opportunity for him to show off what he could do.
The chapel was designed as an interior with no particular church in mind. When you walk into the chapel, the beauty of Tiffany is all around you. From the colors to the mosaics to the chandelier, or as Tiffany called it, the electrolier. It's simply breathtaking.
He was actually awarded at the exposition an award for combining the technical and the beautiful.
More than 1.4 million visitors oohed and awed over Tiffany's Byzantine-inspired chapel decor when it first made its appearance in Chicago. Over a century later, it continues to have the same effect right here in Winter Park, thanks to a local husband and wife who founded the Morse Museum in 1942.
Well, that's a wonderful and interesting story. Jeanette Genius McCain founded the museum and named it after her grandfather, Charles Hosmer Morse. And she eventually married Hugh McCain, who was a painter, and became the first director of the museum.
But the real story is how Tiffany's Chapel came to Orlando in the first place.
This was meant to be a temporary structure. It was created for the World's Columbian Exposition.
It moved on to serve as an art monument at Laurelton Hall, Tiffany's Long Island estate that included a museum and art school.
Hugh had been a student at Laurelton Hall, so he knew Tiffany the man.
Tiffany thought Laurelton Hall would last forever, but it didn't. When he died in 1933, his estate and most of his belongings were sold. Then in 1957, a devastating fire gutted the remaining Long Island estate.
No one cared about it. It actually burned. And one of the daughters of Tiffany called up Mrs. McCain, knowing about the exhibit that she had done in Winter Park, said, "Would you like to save a window?" And so they went up, Hugh and Jeanette McCain went up, and Jeanette said, "We have to save all that we can."
The result? A great influx of Tiffany's personal treasures right here in our backyard, including surviving remnants of the chapel.
There was only a shell of it that remained at Laurelton Hall.
But that didn't stop the McCains. It was their mission to preserve Tiffany's work of art, and they spent years doing it.
And I believe it was a 2.5-year period of conservation.
Finally, in 1999, the chapel was fully restored and on display at the Morse Museum. It was the first time in over a century where people could see Tiffany's masterpiece.
Park, and that really changed the Charles Hosmer Morse Museum of American Art from being a very fine local museum to being something that really is an international treasure.
Sadly, the McCains passed away before this treasure was complete. But their vision continues to live on at the Morse Museum.
Well, that does it for the Arts Connection. I'm Cecily Wilson, and thanks for joining us here at the Manello Museum. We want to hear from you, so if you have a place that you'd like for us to visit or see, or you have a bit of culture or art that you'd like to learn more about, then email us at artstv@wmfe.org. And don't forget, you can check us out on the web or listen to the Arts Connection radio program with Becky Morgan on 90.7 FM. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to join us next week for the Arts Connection, when we'll visit with a group of local dancers rehearsing for the latest version of that holiday classic, The Nutcracker. And this one has a bit of a twist, so you won't want to miss it. I'm Cecily Wilson, and we hope you'll join us for the Arts Connection next Thursday evening at 8:30.